Welcome to another episode of the Village Boy Podcast. This is your host, Trez, and today we're addressing another interesting conversation that's in the public space. Recently, President Trump has been talking about running for a third term. Whether it's a joke or he's being serious, it's not what we're going to talk about right. The simple fact is that in a country where the Constitution expressly forbids somebody who has served for two terms, whether it's conservative or single terms, that the party that prides itself, that hypocritically considers itself experts in the Constitution, have not come out in full force to shut this madness down, tells you everything I keep saying about the Republican Party, a joke. The Republican Party is a laughing stock. And I've always said the Republican Party is a party Americans turn to when Democrats mess up. It's not a long term strategy. It's not a party that you look to for solutions. It's not a party that has ideas, great ideas on how to help the American people. It's a temporary relief for a long term problem. The Republican Party is. Because I can assure you that if the Democrats can keep this their woke BS nonsense to a minimum, solve everyday American problems, the Republicans are never going to ever be in political office again. They offer no solutions. And Democrats were already on path for that achievement. But they decided to go woke. They decided to distract themselves with irrelevant things that does not help to put food and solve everyday American party. Today is about the Republican Party. The Republican Party should have shut down this thing as soon as it came up. Whether it's a joke or not, it is not a topic that needs to be had. Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, should have come up and say, no, our Constitution does not allow President Trump, to run for a third term. End of story. And Republicans should have come out in force and say that, yes, we have a president who's pushing an agenda that looks like it's going to work in the interest of America, which has not worked, by the way. His first term cannot be measured because of COVID. So we cannot say it was good or if it was bad, because it was partly good and horribly bad. So that's a split. This is really his first shot at being a president, and we're hoping no major disasters come to interfere with his presidency so we can give a fair assessment to his presidency. There's no telling how it's going to pan out. What if he's a horrible, 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 horrible? See, are we still going to root for a third term? What is this infatuation about somebody who has just said a lot of good things, like every other Democrats do say? Is beginning to implement, which is why people still like him because he's putting his actions and his mouth synced. But what is this craziness about a third term? So, what has he done? He has pushed aggressively to deport illegals. Now he's actually deporting legal migrants, people with protective statuses in America. He's deporting them. The argument was first, we're going to deport all the illegals. Everybody was on board on that. They have not finished deporting all. They said there were 25 illegal immigrants in America. They have hardly deported 25 million people, and they've already turned to start deporting legal immigrants. Second thing, I support and push for the trade wars because America needs to get again into a manufacturing space. America needs to be able to create jobs for Americans. So that is a good thing for me to fight for. This is something that should have been shut down immediately. After 2028, what's going to happen? He's going to run for a fourth term. Why do you want to stop there? He should run for a sixth term. Heck, but why not? Why should you stop there? He should run for a seventh term. Why stop? I mean, why should you stop A party of incompetent people that cannot accept the fact that Trump has led the way. Now we need to be able to pick the baton and keep running. You want Trump to remain president, he should run for a fourth term, a fifth term, a sixth term. If he's 150, like the people in the Elon Musk findings, he should still run for president. Matter of fact, we should not have any other president. America should not have, we've had our last and final president. We coronate Donald Trump, the end all be all president, per these dumb Republicans. A party that is not going to come out and put an end to this madness. When you open this door, where does it stop? If you don't believe that Trump is planning to run for a third term, hear him say it for himself.
People are asking me to run, and there's a whole story about running for a third term. I don't know. I never looked into it. And they do say there's a way you can do it, but I don't know about that. But I want to do a fantastic job.
This is the madness that I'm saying. You don't have to look into it to see if there's a possibility for you to run for a third term, Mr. President. The Constitution does not allow you to run for a third term. And anybody that brings it up to you, you should shut it down. You have a job to solve America's crisis right now. And in 2028, you will be older and you should have done such a good job that you could hand over to JD Vance to say, this is where I want you to continue. Not you. You're not a god. You're not a king. It's not a monarchy. Your term limits at 2, and you're on your second one. Voila. You don't get to think about it. This is not something that a sitting president says. People have asked me, they shut it down. The best presidents are able to hand over the baton to the next generation. JD Vance should be able to be that next candidate and continue in your model. And you're able to guide him and shape policies in the background. That is your job, not entertaining some Republican lunacy about running for a third term. And you shockingly, you don't see Republican congressmen, senators, and governors across the country coming out to say, we are not going to certify this kind of madness if it ever came up. We should shut it down so it goes away. Matter of fact, it is a distraction. Either Republicans are using this as a distraction because they're not able to solve everyday American problems. Here's Bill Maher, Steve Bannon having this conversation. Let's listen in.
I didn't do it for Donald Trump. I did it to stand up for the Constitution. That committee was totally rigged, and I didn't mind
I
going to
brought a
prison.
copy tonight. Here it is, the Constitution. Can I read a passage to you? Amendment 22, no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. And yet you keep talking about Trump's third. Maybe you should have this. Here,
I
do
would,
it.
I was itching to sign it backstage and underline.
I
Look,
will.
President Trump didn't bring up running for the third term. Myself and others.
These are the hypocrites that pride themselves as constitutional gods, constitutional freaks, the people who stand on the Constitution. And he's sitting out here in all arrogance, Republican arrogance, saying, myself and others, we brought it up. Brought it up. That's who? That's who? Dude, you just came out of prison. We shouldn't hear anything that you want to say. Myself and others, we brought it up because you have no other candidate that can continue in President Trump's mandate, his mission. This has to be a cabal of some kind of craziness. Myself and others brought it up. So in the first video, Trump said people were telling him. So you are the people that were telling Trump to run for a third term. And he's actually creating an exploration committee right now to see their possibilities for him to run for a third term. Let me tell you people something. You need to understand that if this happens, let's just go ahead and trash that Constitution. Let us go ahead and trash that Constitution. You cannot single-handedly or with whichever nefarious figures out there working with you to water down the Constitution to satisfy your interests. In whose interest does it serve to destroy your constitution, would you be able to pride yourself again as the beacon of democracy, even though I don't think we are? Would you be able to say these things? Would you be able to go start wars in different countries in the guise that you're bringing them democracy when you yourself don't have it? Will you be able to wash the stains? And not that you care, because I created a video that labels like dictator and stuff like that no longer works. But these are the hallmarks of a dictatorial regime. Who benefits from you starting a conversation about President Trump running for a third term when we have everyday problems and we need solutions now? You are already thinking about Trump running in 2028 when we have not solved the problems that are out there right now. Steve Bannon. This is why I say this party is a joke. This is not a party that is focused on solving problems. Now, let me tell you something. At least if Trump was running at an approval of at least above 50, 60, rare, I said maybe, and prices for everyday goods were down. Gas was $2.50. X, we're back to $1.99. We were handing it to China, regaining business from China at an alarming rate. Even with those kind of numbers, per the Constitution, Trump should not run for a third term. Even with those kind of numbers, Mr. Bannon, even with those kind of numbers, exceptional numbers, America had created 10 million jobs in the 3.5 years before we started elections. Even then, Trump should not run for. We don't know what's going to happen next year. We don't know if some liberal is going to release a virus or something that's going to affect all of us. We don't know. And here you are pushing a narrative for somebody to be president in 2028 when he has not solved 2025 problems. This is the Republican Party. You have not solved today's problems, but you're thinking about 4 years that would automatically secure you 4 years if you solve the problems of today. What a joke, Mr. Sir.
Brought up running for a third term. President Trump is going to run for a third term, and President Trump is going to be elected again on the afternoon of January 20th of 2029. He's going to be president of the United States.
This is somebody who has had his life almost taken twice. Somebody comes up and says that on X and X date, President Trump is going to be inaugurated. He's going to be president. In what capacity is this clown speaking? In what capacity is this ex-convict? Is he talking on behalf of the Republican Party? Because the Republican Party has not put this to rest. They have not shut this down. They have not come out in full force to say Steve Bannon is not an operative of the Republican Party and does not speak on behalf of the Republican Party. And no, Trump is not going to be president because he is not going to run. And they're letting this idea marinate. To see a political operative disregard the Constitution, to sell a message that has not shown any kind of proof, any kind of success, at least let the man succeed. Use his success to then ride that wave. Although it would still be illegal, he should not ride. But if you even want to have this narrative, let it be based on the fact that the man has a success record to run on. He doesn't. He's been in office less than 100 days. He doesn't have a success record to run on for you to demand that he runs for a third term. So either we have a constitution or we don't have a constitution. So either we're all Democrats and we get rid of the Republican Party because the party serves absolutely no purpose if they're going to water down the Constitution themselves. But who am I kidding? Right? Who am I kidding?
Okay, but the thing I just read in there, it seemed like there was no wriggle room there. It seemed like it was just, 8 or 10 words and said only 2 times.
We have a team of people that are
Team. How can a team do something about that? What? I don't care if the team is 12 trillion people. The words are still the words.
still every day in federal courts. Right now in federal courts, there's 120 lawsuits on what President Trump's doing for his Article 2 rights on the unified executive theory. But he's chief executive, he's commander in chief, and he's chief magistrate and chief law enforcement officer. There's 100, and they're running to court every day to sue President Trump, all because the interpretation of this. The interpretation of this is open for
How
interpretation.
should it be open? Could I have it back? I'm sorry to read. No person. You would agree he's a person. Okay, shall be elected. He was elected to the office. That's the office of the president more than twice. Twice is once and then another time. I don't see what the team is fine.
Okay, well, just
I will disagree.
That we're having this conversation 100 days into a man's presidency that all he has done so far is deport a couple of hundreds of illegal immigrants, currently deporting a few legal immigrants, has had a good fight with China on tariffs, and a lot of people are coming around it right now. Prices are still relatively high. Gas is still high. As we're going into the summer, I don't see it coming down. It's probably going to be $5 or $4 or something. Food prices, I've been to grocery stores. I've not seen the changes that they've been talking about, but maybe that's just me. And now we are talking about him running in 2028. Much older, I must say. Much, much older at that point. But that's the least of my problem. Whether he's young, he's old, he is ineligible to run. And the Republican Party should not be entertaining this conversation. Already, they don't solve American problems. This is a high-level political party. They don't solve everyday problems. The Republican Party is not known in my lifetime to have solved a problem that has benefited all of Americans in my lifetime. Republicans are not going to solve healthcare. They're not going to solve education. They're not going to build infrastructures. They're not going to make a competitive American workforce. This is not what they're focusing. They're about freedom. They want to give you, the individual, the freedom to do whatever it is that you want to do. If you then say, I want to terminate my pregnancy, they're like, no, that's not the freedom we were talking about, because God said, this is the Republican Party. And that's why a party like that is able to entertain the logic that Obama is not going to entertain any idea of running for a third term. And they've had polls where Obama is blowing off Trump off the waters by some 12, 15 points. This is just people playing with American minds. This is what playing with Americans really look like. Because the Democrats are entertaining it. The Democrats are entertaining it. They never shut it down.
For third term, this scenario exploits a loophole in the 22nd Amendment, which states no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than 2 times, but does not prevent a twice elect president from later assuming the role through succession of Professor Bruce Peabody, co-author of a 1999 president until 2037, due to constitutional loopholes. Okay. On January 2029, J.D. Vance, commonly known as, could be sworn in as a president after winning the 2020 election. Trump as his vice president, only to immediately declare, I resign, allowing Trump to assume the presidency for third term. This scenario exploits a loophole in the 22nd Amendment, which states no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than 2 times, but does not prevent a twice elect president from later assuming the role through succession of Professor Bruce Peabody, co-author of a 1999 Minnesota Law Review article, The Twice and Future President Explained. We contend that the 22nd Amendment prescribes only the re-election of an already twice elected president, making the Trump path to a third term legally feasible if the strategy hinges on Vance's loyalty and Trump's popularity, with the crowd cheering Trump, 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 in 4 more years as he takes office again, potentially extending his tenure until 2037, when he'd be 90. Peabody told DailyMail.com that it would be pretty hard for Supreme Court to overturn it, especially with its conservative textualist bent, noting, I think it's one of those surprisingly straightforward scenarios. Adam.
Look, I mean, it's amazing to me that this conversation is actually taking a real life of its own. The people who are constitutionalists are willing to basically bypass what they believe. You hear the people that are like, God, country, party. And then they're just like, yeah, I'd love to see Trump have a third term.
Thank you. Thank you. hypocrites, certified hypocrites, Republicans. God, country, party. Yeah, we would love to see Trump run for a third term, a fourth term, a fifth term. Hypocrites. I can't really fault them. I guess that's why Democrats say Republicans are not very vast in education, because this is the argument that they're bringing. This is what they want people to talk about. Which particular problem have you solved that has made the everyday American life better? Illegal immigrants is a good thing, amazing thing. It doesn't make your life better, doesn't change the outcome of your mortgage bill, doesn't change the tax structure of your state, doesn't guarantee that you have security benefits when you retire. Oh, no, those kind of things Republicans don't talk about. Security benefits when you retire. No, you're on your own. You have to be able to figure that for yourself. But almost countries don't think like that, but that's how Republicans think. Every man for himself, God for us all. The motto of the Republican Party is every man for himself, God be with us all.
You not believe in the Constitution anymore?
They don't believe in the Constitution. It shows that they have never really believed in the Constitution. If you're willing to throw out the Constitution out because of Trump, you've never believed in the Constitution. And that's why I think the Republican Party is a joke of a party. Not as bad as the Democrats are, but it's also a joke. And the problem is that they're the biggest professional hypocrites.
The whole concept of Trump is that he's a once in a lifetime generational
Disruptive.
You're just going to throw out all your morals, your convictions, your principles, your beliefs, your belief in the Constitution because you love this one man.
He voted for him. I voted for him. But I'm not going to support a third term because I believe some other person can carry the torch. We cannot throw down the Constitution because we want to keep him there forever. Complacency is the gateway to failure. If you're going to support me, irrespective of anything that I do, I'm not going to respect you because I know whatever I do, you're going to support it either ways. If you doubt me, look at Black Democrats. They've been voting for that party for 60 years, and the box of crayon has the Democrat Party offered them. Not even water, a bottle of water, say, hey, for your thirst, go ahead and drink this water, has the Democrat Party offered Black people. And now Republicans are trying to make Trump be like that. And how do you think Trump is going to see you?
Voted for him. I want him to do these things that he's doing now. But this is the creeping of a king, of a dictator, an authoritarian. I understand why the left would be freaking out. Now, if they're just doing this to troll the left,
No, you don't even do this to troll anybody, not even the left. And I love to troll the left because the left deserves it. But you do not water down the Constitution to troll the left. You don't troll the left with something that people like Steve Bannon and saying that we have started an exploration committee. No. Listen, Trump is a troll in himself already. Just him winning the election is a troll enough. Him winning stuff, him bringing prices down, him solving everyday American problems. The Democrats are going to blow their minds off. They're gonna have heart attacks. They're just gonna be sick. That's enough of a troll. You don't have to go look at some foundational law, something that has been practiced for over 400 years to come and say we're using it as a troll. You can troll the Democrats with just solve everyday problems. Cancel subscriptions for MSNBC. That's a troll. Say you're gonna, in fact, don't cancel it. Just turn that you're considering. You're looking at it to see if they deserve to be at the White House. My goodness, they would go nuts. The very idea that you should have shut it down the first time.
but if this is actually a plan that's in the works, at some point are some people going to caution themselves and say, well, guys, what are we doing here? Because also the Republican Party should probably grow a pair of balls and realize that you're going to need Trump 2.0 and Trump 3.0. Trump can't be your daddy forever.
But they're hypocrites and they're dependent. These are people that cannot think for themselves. These are people that cannot. And that's why I say the Republican Party is a place people go to when the Democrat Party has failed them. Temporary relief, short term. And as soon as the Democrat Party gets its stuff together, They didn't leave the Republican Party back to its dependency, hypocrisy, and self-destruction mode. You have won the election. You have won 7 key swing states. You have won with a good majority that you've never won in your lifetime before. You would think that they will sit down and be as inclusive as possible. No, bring everybody under the umbrella. Try to win some more African Americans. Try to win some more Latinos. Make sure there's a comprehensive immigration bill. Make sure there's a bill, there's a good educational program. Make sure there's a healthcare program that lowers the cost of healthcare so that American families are not struggling under the weight of a profit maximizing healthcare system. Now, that would not be the Republican Party because they don't care about those things. They just don't. It's not who they are. What they're focused about right now is Trump running for a third term. Do you see the senators coming out to say no? Do you see the congressmen coming out to say, because everyone is scared of Trump. If you come on now and say, no, Trump is going to go after you in the midterms. So everybody's staying out of sight and not talking about it, and it's gaining momentum and gaining steam and interest.
So even Vivek was like, look, I'm America first, but America first does not begin and end with Trump. Someone else is going to take the mantle. So if you don't have enough balls and courage to say someone else will have to be that dude and become the next Trump 2.0, then all you are is a party of Trump, and then good luck. So I'm rooting for Trump. I think he's doing great. I think the economy is a little uncertain right now, but I think that's needed.
Exactly. How can you be fantasizing about somebody who has not delivered the results, who has not provided the numbers? Crazy, amazing numbers. Need to be seriously conflicted to even think that Trump 3.0 is remotely a good idea. When the Constitution that you've lied yourself about, that you've lied everybody about, that you believe in the Constitution.
What happens if the economy goes in shambles the next year or two? What if? We're acting like he's just godfathered into the role. It's almost like you're spiking the football Deshaun Jackson style on the 1 yard line before you're in the goal, before you're in the end zone. Finish the game and then maybe have this conversation to float this out literally 4 years before an election.
So the Republican has showed its ugly face again to the rest of the world. They're promoting President Trump to run again for a third term. It's sad. And that there's no leadership in this party because everybody's scared of Trump. Personally, I'm not surprised because I have assessed both parties, and the Republican Party is just who they are. They make no apologies. They don't change for anybody. This is just who they are. I'll wrap it up for tonight. It's your host. Continue to like, leave your comments, and hit the subscribe button. I cannot be part of a party that supports the violation of the Constitution this blatantly. I cannot identify with a party that's going to tell a man that you can run for a third term when he is 100 days into his second term. And there's nothing to back up that run for a third term. In this particular instance of Trump and a third term, I'm giving a complete F to the Republican Party. Thank you.